So I've got a functioning calculator here. I've got about 65 lines of code, and it works. But it's getting a little bit confusing. I'm repeating myself a few times for different things, and I'm finding that maybe my code's getting a little bit trickier to kind of follow. I've got quite a lot of code up here for my numbers, and I've got my operators happening here. So what we can use in Python is functions. Now there are actually some inbuilt functions in Python. So things like input is a function, print is a function. So these are functions that you've been using all along, but they were created and included as part of the Python package. But we can actually make our own functions. And to do that, we would use, let me just write to define functions up here. We would use the def keyword, which is short for define, and then we could name our function whatever it is that we want. There are some rules. We can't have spaces, some rules like we can't name it after a function that already exists. But for example, I could create an add function, and we follow the function calling with these parentheses. You'll notice that input has got parentheses, int has got these parentheses, and when defining it we would use a colon to say, okay, whatever this next chunk of code is, that's going to be what we want for the add function. So I'm just going to take this addition, I'm going to take this addition code here, and I'm going to put it inside the function. Okay, we do need to define our functions before we use them. Now to use the function, we would call it, and to call it we simply write the name of the function, whatever we've called it, followed by parentheses, in this case add. Because Python will read the first line first, check, okay, yep, there's an add function, okay. Then when it gets back down to here, okay, yeah, I know how to add, that works. So I haven't actually created much new code here, so it should still work as expected. Yep, that still works. Then I can, let me just add addition function in here. So we can create exactly the same for other things like subtraction function. So we can def, subtract, open parentheses, close parentheses, got a colon, and then I'm going to take this, these couple of lines of code here. There we go, and put them inside. Good. So again, that's going to work. And then let me do one now for multiply function. Okay, def multiply, open parentheses, and let me get the, oh, I didn't call my subtract function there, so I need to remember to call it. So if the operator is subtract, then I want to call my subtract function. Let me take this and put it in here. Just make sure that you can see this tiny grey line here, and my indentation is not quite right. So if I ran it, then I'm going to get an indentation error. Yeah, you see this indentation error. It's telling me it's on line 15. Well, it's actually because this doesn't match up with this, with that line there. So down here I'm going to call my multiply function, and then finally I've got my division function here, so I'm going to define that, divide, and paste that in. Okay, so I've not really added a lot of new code. I've kind of put some of my existing code into these functions. I have defined them at the top, at the beginning of my code, but it then just tidies this up a little bit down here. So it's just a bit easier to see what's happening exactly where. So this is where the functions are being called down here. It's just tidying up my code a little bit. Let me just double check that it all still works. Let me use subtract subtract, for example. Okay. Oh, interesting. So if I've got 6.7, take away 3.8. This is why it's really important. Oh, I know it. Right. So what I have done is, I've subtracted x take away subtract. I have subtracted. Why has it turned it into that number 6.7? If I subtract, it's called subtract. Yeah, so call in the subtraction function. Subtraction equals x take away y, x. So that's right. Is something happening here with this one? Let me just test it out again. It's really good to test your code as you're going along. Let's just try it with some integers to begin with. So 6, 4, and subtract. Okay, so that works with the integers, but as a float, 7.5. Let me just try a float and an integer with subtract. Okay, that works. A float and an integer works. Let's try an integer with a float, subtract. Good, that works. Let's try, so 6.5, 3.2, subtract. Oh, it works that time. That was a weird bug that I experienced there. But it just goes to show you that it is important that you just check your code. We also need to make sure that you're testing it with as many possible options as possible.